click, bang. Once I get him a little bit afraid of the arm, even though it's hit his basket, he's going to be a little shy about that arm, so I can go as he's coming out and hit something else. So those are some examples on righties and lefties, how to create those openings with a sword strike. Anyone have any questions? Creation of angles. We got 5 minutes.
What's your defense when you do that leg on this left? When you do that swing, how do you defend yourself because you're dropping so low?
Do you have your shield? Ah, sweaty. All right. I want you to throw it, and I want to see how you think I would defend against it. I'm just going to leave this leg open so you can go after it. That's not going to work very well. And especially, that's why I don't recommend this shot. Even if you see that a lot, what does that do? What happens if I go twitch? Even if you swing from my head, I'm still seeing you. My head's up. No, I'm not ducking. I'm just here, and I can just push it over. Keep your shield with you. It's your best friend. And if you step around somehow out of it, all I got to do is push, and I'm out of it. You want to avoid big leans, whatever direction it happens to be. Even if I'm jumping, it's going to be straight up and down. Because if I'm drawn out, I'm kind of screwed. I can't even bring this up to defend myself. Go on. Do you have something?
It was, you throw the shot this way, and I throw it this way. You go across at a straight plane, and mine is up.
It's the same shot, it's just how you turn your knuckles. Yep. But, in my experience, as I come across here, and he throws his basket down, what's going to hit first? I'm going to hit here, and I'm trying to whip this tip over versus driving through a guaranteed leg. So, you may, on him, there's no way I'm getting a body in his stance. Most I can hope for is an arm. But what's most likely going to happen? I'm going to hit a basket. How hard is it for him to get his stick down into a leg? Very. And if he does it once, guess what I'm going to do? Woo! Because that's a pretty crazy movement to do while you're fighting. Having to come all the way down here to try to block the leg. So that's why mine is usually at the leg. Any questions on use of angles, feints, ring generalship?
I was just going to say, talking going to the body, something you said that you do, but you said it really quietly. You drop your hips to generate your power, especially when you're breaking your wrist. So many people break their wrist and go for it, but they don't use any generation because you can't turn your hips with it. You can't bring your shoulder into it as you were throwing the shot. But you said you drop your hips to generate your power. And it seems so many people go for it without doing that to get the power to make it stick.
And that's why you get a lot of offside bodies, offside legs that are light or slidey. Because if you just break a wrist, especially if you lean, that doesn't necessarily put a lot of power into what's going on. But if you, and practice it on the Pel, drop your weight, even if you're throwing a flat snap, if you step after a guy and that much weight's dropped as your flat snap's going, it's going to take his head off. So, good point. You have to be able to generate enough power to do your killing and not just put your stick there. We got time?
Time.
All right. Thanks very much. I know we went over a lot in a short time. Take it back to practice. Have the desire that, as Ray Solomon was talking about it, work with your buddies. Slow work is not sissy work. It'll teach you what's going on. Also, attack defense drills, movement drills. That's practice is time for practice, not just another tournament that happens every Wednesday. That's what I got.
Sword class? Well, I got one thing I want to bring up, sword and shield, before we move on to that. I listened to this morning, and it's kind of bugging me, I guess. There's a lot of talk about footwork, how important your footwork is. And I'm not disagreeing with any of that. Your footwork is very important, okay? How many here are hitting a pellet home? Have a pellet hitting it regularly. Is it in the grass, the dirt, pavement?
On a concrete weight.
Who's in the grass? Is the grass growing around it?
No.
If there's grass growing around, you're not hitting it enough.
Nope.
If there's grass growing on 3 sides of it and no just dirt right here, you're doing it wrong. Are you moving around your pellet? Yes. Are you practicing throwing shots off body, off balance? How are you practicing off balance shots? What are you doing?
Like a bike.
So you're working around the pellet. You're throwing your shots in motion.
In motion, in retreat, attack.
Anybody else have any ways of practicing their shots off balance?
Hey, small children, to put you in
I'll tell you something I started doing about 15 years ago because I wanted to be able to throw shots stronger, harder, without having balance. Okay? You quickly realize you're not always going to be in a perfect position to throw that shot. You might be leaning, you might be moving, you might be stepping. So I wanted to learn to throw the shots from the upper body. I didn't have a lot 15 years ago either. I got a lot more from doing this. And as stupid as it may seem, after I would work on the pel, dance around the pel, and move around the pel, I'd lift up a leg. And I would work my shots. Now I'm relying on my upper body to learn them. I'm not saying that's the way you need to learn to throw your shots. You need to learn your body, you need to have to throw your hips. But you need to figure out a way that you can learn to throw all those same shots and get them delivered while you're off step, off balance, and moving. If you can do that, you can increase your fighting quite a bit. Okay? Let's go on to the great circle.
I did the thing.
How many here have fought great sword before? How many have fought great sword a lot? You guys can go sit down. This is my favorite weapons form, without question. I love this. I fight sword and shield because I'm pretty good at it, you know, because quite frankly, you want to be a knight. That's the weapons form, unless you're one of those crazy bastards with the pole off.
Yeah.
But this is the weapon I love. It's an elegant weapon, but it's a violent weapon.
Civilized age.
No, not that civilized. Well done. A great weapon fight, particularly a bastard sword fight, is a thing of beauty to watch, but it is very violent. What that doesn't mean, though, is that it is imprecise. It doesn't mean it's two guys swinging lumber till somebody's laying on the ground. There's a lot of technique involved. We clearly will not be able to get to all of that today, but I wanted to run through some of the basics of how I do it. Greg's going to talk about what he does, and we'll kind of see where we're at after that. I learned bastard sword from some traditional I learned bastard sword from some traditional kendo combatants. So the way I do it's a little different than some guys. I'm going to start by talking about stance. I mean, I'm looking at Jerry right now with my hips this way. So if I'm fighting Jerry, the only thing I'm going to do is put my feet towards him like I would fighting sword and shield if I'm fighting sword leg lead. I'm going to square my shoulders to him and then pull my left shoulder back. The reason I say it that way is because it puts my right shoulder over my heel, which is where I like to start. I drop my hips in, my knees are bent, my weight's not back here because I can't deliver from here. Yes? Basic stance. And there's plenty of other ones, but for a beginning stance is probably about the right training. For the weapon, I got a towel. That's exactly. No, that's not one. Learning how to grip a great sword correctly, at least the way I do it, is learning how to wring out a towel. You see this? Got the towel wrung up, and when my hands are up, towel is loose, everything's fine. when my hands come down, when I'm wringing out the towel, my hands are tight. Right? My elbows are still bent. Wringing out a towel. So, with the weapon, when my arms are up, when they're loose, when I'm moving, the blade can move. When I'm striking, my hands are rotating into each other to the inside, and what was a loose movement, now it's very precise and very strong in that direction. That's why I do it that way. I don't see anybody practicing that movement. Feel that? Feel like wringing out a towel. Just your hands are twisting in as you cut down.
You're fine. You're fine. I know the move.
Good? Okay. So, my basic stance then is about like this. Any kendo manual, you'll see this is pretty much the first one. My point is pointed at my opponent's eyes. Because you would be surprised at the number of times I've just thrown somebody in the face. It's really kind of shocking. We're going to assume that you all will not just stand there and let somebody poke you. The reason why I do that is because when you thrust at someone's eyes, they will respond. 9 times out of 10, if they don't, if they've not been doing it well or not been doing faster for long, they will do something wrong. And even the 10% of the time when they don't do something wrong, they still do something I like. Right? And both times, Jerry did what most people do, which is to block over to the side, and he opens up his arms. Do it again. I'm imprecise. It's especially what I like to see on the guys who fight the big sword. Because most guys who fight great sword, and I'm not, Midian's really good at it, beats me with it on occasion, so I'm not saying anything. He's certainly more than on occasion. But when I see guys who fight the big sword, especially like this with their elbows sticking out, I feel like a fat man at a buffet. It's awesome. I can say that because I've been a fat man at a buffet. Particularly from this kind of stance. Thrust at the eyes, and they have to turn, and typically because the weapon is so heavy and so big and it's pointed up, any kind of turn and that forearm is open. That's why this is the only weapon form where I really actually like wearing forearm armor. Other than that, I think it's a waste of time. And it really doesn't matter which one. I mean, I thrust here, if it cuts the other direction, thrust on this side, cut that way. Because the elbows are sticking out. So, guys, even if you're fighting the big sword with the high guards, bring your elbows in. That way when you make that twist, it's a lot harder for you to hit that forearm. The targets. Sword down. I aim for, half a dozen targets for fighting bastard sword. I learned this the hard way because I aimed at the other ones and I got dead a lot. Straight down the middle. Yes? Both sides of the neck. Both sides of the shoulder. Leg. Now I call that guy second place because I've lost crown twice doing that. I don't do that anymore.
Hit the leg, hit the hip.
Exactly.
Bad trade.
Bad trade. So that's the basic targets. Bringing out the hands. Thrust to the eyes begins a lot of stuff. Slow back up. The basic combination, if you will, for me, is thrust to the eyes, and quite frankly, the first one's not a fake. If they don't block it, I will hit you in the face. Second, or sometime down the line, I thrust for the eyes, and I pull up. Where does he pull his hands? How does he block? Jerry's blocking pretty well. Let's go back to center. He's rolling the sword around the tip. Too far. There. That's enough. You'll be surprised how small the movements you have to make are to make your blocks. From the other side, if I'm thrusting here, same kind of thing. He rolls the weapon around the tip. And he keeps his arms straight, he keeps his elbows in and to the front. Anybody here wrestle?
Yep.
I'm covering a lot of stuff here. I know we're not going in depth, but I'm trying to introduce as much as I can. All the way up. Frequently, you will find yourself in a bastard sword fight up in here. It's my favorite spot.
It's a fat man spot.
It is.
But that's my favorite spot too, and I'm a fat man.
Okay. Now, everybody know that grappling is illegal in the SCA? My ass. Grappling is not illegal.
Accidental.
Because in here, I'm not allowed to grab his weapon. I'm not allowed to grab his body. That's it.
That's just wrong.
You know, I'm allowed to do that. I'm allowed to do that. I'm allowed to do that. These are all things that you should be doing when you get to the inside game.
Back in.
Yeah. Notice where he went. His elbow, he went for the high